I was speaking with my Miss Universe client this morning, and I often say this that's my chicken in the background. I don't often say that. Um, I often say that the presenting issue is rarely the issue. And what I mean by that, for an example, I start a session obviously catching up with her just to see how she is, and then I ask her, what outcome do you want from our session, or what can I help you with? And she mentioned social media. And to me, I never just want to dive in assuming that I know what she means by social media, because social media, if you tell me you want to work on social media, that can mean so many different things. So I asked her what she meant by social media, and as it turned out, she was having certain frustrations in her country reaching out. If you can believe this, she was reaching out to mental health organizations, wanting to volunteer with them, wanting to help them raise funds, raise awareness. And they kept saying no, 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 because in her country they have, maybe it's just the ones she reached out to, I don't know, but in her country the organization seemed to have quite a negative image of pageantry. So much so that they actually seem to believe that pageantry causes the very mental health issues that these organizations are dealing with, some of them anyway. And look, I mean, to be completely fair, I can concede their point in some circumstances, but this is why I think dealing with mental health in pageantry is so important. But suffice to say, my client, she wanted to talk about social media, and she wanted to talk about what to do about this issue she was having with these mental health organizations. I kept saying no, 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 because she wanted to work with them so she could get some footage, get some content. And I dug into that for a little bit, but this is why I say that the presenting issue, so that issue is rarely the real issue. And what I want you to keep in mind is always the end result. Now, my client, obviously about to compete in Universe, so actually it turned out it's 37 days. We worked this out, so it's not even 2 months. She'll be leaving for Israel in 37 days. And it's very obvious what one of the results could be if you're about to compete in Universe, and that is, well, I want to win the title of Miss Universe. And obviously that's not the only result, because we don't want the only result to be, I'm going to win and that's it. So other results such as, well, I want my walk to be fire. I want my wardrobe to be on point, especially the national costume. That can be one of the big stumbling blocks, because that's something that has to be made. It can't normally just be bought. So national costume. She wants her walk to be great. She wants her interview to be great. And she's not a native English speaker, so she wants to feel really confident that she got her point across. Those are the actual results that she's after. Basically, she wants to put her best foot forward. So her result that she's after is not to get these mental health organizations on board, as much as it would be nice to have them on. It's not to make 100 social media posts. It is to win Miss Universe. And she's working largely by herself. I'm helping her, but not all countries, and I'm sure most of you will know this, international pageantry is not a level playing field, especially when it comes to the biggest pageants. And if you saw, I asked on my Instagram story, I put up a post asking, is it Big Four, Big Five? Because depending on who you ask, you'll get a different answer as to whether it's the Big Four pageants, whether it's the Big Five pageants. And then if it's a Big Five pageants, you certainly don't get a consensus on what the fifth pageant is normally, so that you know, if you don't know. The ones that everyone agree on are Universe and World. Then normally it seems to be Earth and International, normally. And then the fifth one is spread somewhere between Grand, Supranational, and Globe. So, but when you get to those biggest stages, it's not a level playing field between different countries. So if you win for example, if you win the right to represent, let's say, the Philippines or Venezuela or America, you're going to more than likely have a huge team behind you supporting you. You probably are going to have sponsors falling over themselves to work with you. and it's definitely not a solo effort. My client is not going in with any of those advantages. She's pretty much having to do everything herself. She was telling me this morning she's even having to, do the photography and do the Photoshop corrections herself, the light shop corrections. So it's not a level playing field. And if you are in that situation, and look, you might be from Venezuela or the Philippines, and maybe you just don't have the benefit of a huge team behind you, it is even more important in those situations that you are able to focus on what your end result is. Because otherwise it is far too easy to get sidetracked on things and sabotage your own chances of success. And when I say that, I mean, it is, and I was talking about this with my client, it is very frustrating to get no after no after no after no, particularly when that no doesn't seem to make any sense. And in this case, I mean, if you're a mental health organization and someone's coming to you saying, would you like some exposure on the biggest pageant stage in the world? Would you like me to help you raise funds? And all I'm asking for in return is the chance to take some photos and videos, etc. You'd think most organizations would say yes to that. You certainly wouldn't expect every organization you reach out to say no, 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 we want nothing to do with you. It's almost like they're saying no to money, which from a non-profit organization's point of view just doesn't make any sense. But it's very easy to get sidetracked by that, because most of us don't like being told a no, especially when the no doesn't really seem to make any sense. And it can be very easy to go after that and try to remedy, let's say, that situation. And it comes down sometimes to expectations, right? We have an expectation sometimes as to how our pageant journey is going to go. One of the most dangerous expectations is that if we do X, Y, and Z, then we're going to win. I've seen that expectation ruin many pageant girls' lives and, take them out of the game for a good year, 2 years, or just permanently, because they expected that if they did such and such actions, that they were going to maybe not necessarily win, but, I thought I was definitely going to place. And pageant judging is such that, and you should know this, pageant judging is so subjective that you just can't take anything for granted. So, as I said to my client, it's not necessarily that the no's are what's derailing or causing you to lose your focus. It's the expectation that you had, that if you reached out to them, some of them were going to say yes. And obviously a lot fewer of them are saying yes and she would like. And it's that mismatch, because you had that expectation and reality is not meeting that expectation, that was causing her to lose her focus. So our session ended up being not about those organizations. It ended up not being about social media. It ended up with me helping her to get back on track as to what the real important things were for her to focus on in order for her to get the result, which really in a nutshell is to make herself proud at Universe, despite the fact that she's pretty much having to do it alone. And, I don't have to tell you what the majors are when it comes to what you should focus on when it comes to Universe. You would know that your stage walk, your stage presence has to be on fire. Your wardrobe has to be immaculate, has to fit you down to a T. You want an amazing national costume. Obviously, you want to talk well, you want to interview well, and if English is not your first language, you want to be very comfortable with it, so you want to practice that a lot. And of course, you'd want an advocacy, you'd want a backstory. That's all part of it, right? But going onto that Universe stage, and as I said, it's only 37 days, if you have an hour of spare time in your day, and this is I asked her this question, I put this possibility forwards to her, you probably don't want to spend that hour chasing up these organizations who've been saying no, trying to convince them that they should say yes. It's probably a better idea to spend that hour getting the wardrobe sorted, getting the national costume sorted, sorting out a deadline, hopefully at least a week or two in advance, so that you can have the time to practice walking in that dress that you're going to walk in on the biggest stage in the universe, so to speak. You want the time to see if you can find a stage with mirrors or video so you can practice walking in that dress so you know it like the back of your hand. And my point is this: it's very easy, unless you have a massive team behind you, and sometimes even when you do, it's very important that you remain focused pretty relentlessly on what's the actual end result here, right? The end result is not to post up, for most of you anyway, with your pageant journeys, it's not to post up 1,000 social media posts. It's not even to work with 1,000 different mental health organizations or to raise a certain amount of money. The end result, although it will differ from person to person, is ultimately some version of, for most of you, I want to win or place in this pageant so that I can have a larger platform and spread my message to more young women around the world, or young people, or just people in general. It's some version of that, right? My result is that entering this pageant, I want to grow as a woman, I want to grow as a person, I want to grow my platform, and I want my voice and my message to be heard by as many people around the world as possible. So when you're getting frustrated next time because, let's say, your dress isn't on time, or it's been delayed in shipping, or you're reaching out to organizations and you're getting no after no after no, or you're reaching out for interviews and people are saying no, 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 just keep an eye on the end goal, okay? Because, as the saying goes, you want to remain steadfast in your goal, but you want to be flexible in your approach as to how you get there. And sometimes, and again, this is because of those expectations, sometimes we can get so stuck on trying to make our goal happen in a certain way that we can lose focus of what the actual goal is. So having that ability to remain focused on the end result or end goal is super important in terms of giving you that flexibility to very quickly sidestep and go from, okay, if this doesn't work, if plan A doesn't work, let's go to plan B. If plan B doesn't work, let's go to plan C. Plan C doesn't work, let's go to plan D. And it's very important that the faster you can do that. I'm not saying it in a way that you have no commitment, right? We're committed to the end result. But how we get there, however, has to remain flexible. Because if we learn anything in life over 2020 with the pandemic, it's that you might have an end goal in mind, but a lot of plans as to how you're going to get there might suddenly be shut off for no reason, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. I mean, for example, if your plan was to, let's say, win a major pageant, or one of the big four pageants, big five pageants, the COVID pandemic hit. And at least in 2021, one of those, the international pageant, has been cancelled. So you might go, oh, well, I can't have my end result. And you get frustrated, you get upset. And I certainly can understand that. If you look at someone like Evangeline Elshma, who won Miss International UK 2021, and she was planning on getting to Japan this year, and now that's off the cards because that pageant has been cancelled. It's very easy to get upset by that because your belief is that I can't achieve my goal. But when you really think about it, as I said in pageantry, our goal may not just solely be to win the pageant. Our goal could be, I want to inspire young women around the world. Your goal could be to work on yourself so that at the end of your reign, however long your reign might be, you want to be proud of yourself because you've worked on X, Y, Z character traits within yourself. Maybe you become more confident. Maybe you become a better speaker, right? Maybe you become a better walker, or whatever it is to you. And when you're honest, and this is the big thing, even if you can't have that result of winning the pageant you wanted, there's probably a million different ways you could actually get the end result that you're after. If your end result is to inspire young women around the world, okay, so maybe you can't win that pageant, but how many different ways could you do it? You could do an Instagram live, you could create a social media post, you could create a workshop in person if possible, you could write a book, you could create a YouTube channel. So my point of the moral of the story is this: work out what your end result is. Okay, because I promise you it's not to make a social media post. I promise you it's not to work with just one of these organizations to get a yes. Your end result is probably larger and has a grander vision than that. And it's probably some version of, you want to inspire young women around the world, or inspire young people around the world, or inspire people around the world. You want to grow your voice so that people can hear your voice, hear your message. It's some version of that, probably. I'm hoping and trusting that your end result is not just completely narcissistic and it's about me, 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 me. If that's the case, and I don't really have a conversation for you, that's the end result. It's very important you know what that is. So when you get a bit off track, you can remind yourself of that. We've talked about purpose, and this is what I was talking about with my client. So what's the end result? Result being I'll finish on this. What's your purpose? Why do you want that end result? Because the purpose is the fuel that's going to get you there when things get tough. And then what's your, as we like to say, your massive action plan? M for mellifluous. Massive action plan to get there. And if you're clear on your result, you're clear on your purpose, then your massive action plan will include all the different ways that you can get to the end result. Not just one way, right? Not just plan A, but plans A, B, C, D, E, whatever it takes to get that end result. And that's what I was coaching. What I ended up coaching my client on this morning was that RPM process. Like the RPMs in your car, which are revolutions per minute, but in this case, results-focused, purpose-driven, massive action plan. And as I said, when it comes to coaching, the presenting issue is rarely the real issue. So as it turned out today, we didn't address any of the how to get a yes from those organizations that kept saying no. We didn't address how I can't create any social media because everyone's telling me no. I ended up getting her focus back on what really counts. And what really counts in this case, because if she wins Miss Universe, I bet you those organizations that said no, most of them are probably going to say yes, right? They're probably going to be the same ones that said no to you are going to be the same ones that are knocking down your door when you achieve your end result. So that's just my tidbit of wisdom for you today. Especially if you feel like you don't have the biggest team around you, or a team that really understands or gets why you're doing pageantry, and often that can be your friends and family. Don't focus on trying to convince them what you're doing is right. Focus on your end result. Know why you're doing it, and trust that the right people are going to stay in your life or come into your life because, not necessarily that you win, but because they see who you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it, and the person you're becoming in the process. Okay? RPM, results-focused, purpose-driven, massive action plan. That's my advice as to how to organize your time and really stay focused on the results, what's really important in the lead up to whatever pageant it is you're competing in. And you might go, Adrian, I'm not competing in Universe, so is this relevant to me? Yes. Okay, at any level, whether you're competing in the biggest pageant in the world or the smallest pageant in the world, if you want to maximize your time and get the best results that you can, then focus on that end result. But be flexible as to how you go about getting it. I'm going to leave it there. We've made it to the weekend. We've got a week or so. So Monday week, we'll be opening up to the public, the sorority. So if you like this sort of coaching content, and I understand it's a bit more of a deep dive and behind the scenes, but this is the stuff that I'm working with my Big Four clients on. And the reason I ask, just so you know, this is a bit of backstory, the reason I ask, is it Big Four or Big Five when it comes to pageant systems, is because I wanted to put on my Instagram bio, to be honest, I wanted to humble brag as to how many Big Four or Big Five clients I have. So I wanted to know from you guys, do you think it's Big Four or Big Five? I don't want to put that I have Big Five clients on there when you go, hang on, it's not Big Five, it's Big Four. Or if you think it's Big Five, I don't want to be Big Four. You go, why isn't it Big Five? That's why I asked. So if you check my Instagram bio now, you can see I put Big Four coach, because I'm in the ridiculous position, I just worked this out a couple of days ago, of probably having 4 people competing at Miss Universe in less than 2 months who I not only know or have interviewed, but maybe I've coached as well. And that just boggles my mind, coming from my background as a shy private school boy who barely knew how to talk to girls. to suddenly being a big four or big five, depending on your interpretation, a big four coach. It is, life sometimes can throw you in unexpected directions, which is why it's important for you to keep your end result in mind. My result in terms of my life has always been to help people. And life took me in a direction where it was more about helping women, because I ended up working at a girls' school for tennis coaching, if you don't know that story. And that's where I first saw some of the unique challenges that young women face. I've never said that men don't face issues. I've never said that women as a whole don't face issues, but for me, it's been working with young women. And for me, it was young women, because if I could change a young person's life, then, if you make a change at 18 versus make a change at 80, it has that sort of bigger effect, because it's more life to live with that change. So I initially thought my life was going to take a different direction in terms of coaching. I didn't know about pageantry until probably 2016. I had coached for over 10 years before there. But because my end result was I want to help young women, then when life threw me in a different direction, I was able to go with it. I didn't have to fight it. Whereas if I had been, laser focused on I'm going to help people and I'm going to help people in this way, and then pageantry had been thrown at me, I would have gone, no, I'm not going to do pageantry, because that's not the way I want things to be. That's not my expectation as to how life should have turned out. But fortunately, I was smart enough, or lucky enough, to roll with the punches. So that's a bit of a backstory. As I said, we've made it to the weekend. Have an amazing weekend. If you haven't signed up for Sorority Early Access, you're running out of time. As I said, we'll be opening up Monday week. So head to the PAGEANTSorority.com. And once that opens, I'll be putting all this sort of deep dive coaching content and daily vlogs on how to get ahead in life and in pageantry. I'll be putting that on the Sorority site. So it won't be as public as before, because as I said, I really want to give our members an unfair advantage. So this will be on our members site. So make sure you sign up for that early access, thepageantsorority.com, and I will see you next week.